Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be sharing my most anticipated romance and thriller and the odd YA contemporary for 2022. I cannot believe that it's about to be 2022. My brain does not fully grasp that it's even possible that this year has flown by so quickly. And I feel like that happens often, but I feel like this year especially just sped by. But anyway, here we are. Romance tends to have a very different publishing schedule from fantasy, so I'm sure that despite me making this list, there will be a ton of new romances that pop up as the year progresses that I will be excited for. I might end up doing another video in July of anticipated releases for the second half of the year, but I feel like romance releases, sometimes they'll announce them a couple of months before they're coming out, whereas fantasy, sometimes you'll know years in advance. So I didn't want to combine my lists this year. I decided to break things down again like I used to do in the past because there were just so many fantasy books that I was looking forward to that if I were to include thrillers and romance and YA contemporaries, it would have been a 2-hour video, I think. And I didn't want to cut anything because everything really does sound very exciting. So anyway, let's get started. We're going to start off with January. The first book on my list is When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. This one's releasing on January 4th. I loved Emma Lord's debut novel, Tweet Cute, and I enjoyed her sophomore novel, You Have a Match. But this third one is really speaking to me because our main character is a theater kid who dreams of becoming a Broadway star. Then this is the part of it that makes me cringe a little bit, but she ends up finding her dad's old live journal online, and she decides to use that to try to find her mom because she's never known who her mom is. And I say that makes me cringe because the whole live journal thing just makes me feel incredibly old, but I'm going to give this book a shot anyway. It has a lot of buzzwords that I feel like it could be something that I'll really enjoy, but I'm going in a little bit cautious. Next on my list is Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and this one comes out on January 11th. I really loved Rachel's debut adult romance that came out last year called The X Talk, and I'm so looking forward to this one, which is based in Seattle, and it's a romance following a TV meteorologist and a sports reporter, and the pair of them are scheming to reunite their divorced bosses, which just sounds like an excellent premise for a rom-com. It kind of has a little bit of Emma vibes. Then we've got our first thriller book on the list, and that is Real Easy by Marie Rutkowski. This one's releasing on January 18th, and it's Marie Rutkowski's first adult thriller novel. Marie Rutkowski has always written young adult fantasy, and I've enjoyed a lot of her books, so I'm excited to try this one. This book takes place in a strip club, and it draws on Marie's real-life experience as a former dancer, and this thriller also examines the question, how do women live their lives when they know that there are men out there who can hurt them? Next on my list is another romance novel, and it's The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegmund Broca. This is, again, another YA duo that is jumping ship into adult romance, and I'm really excited to read their first book. This one comes out on January 22nd, and it follows an author duo who are literary stars, but the two of them end up ending their partnership on very bad terms, and they end it for reasons that neither of them divulged to the public, so everybody's always been really curious about what happened between these two people. But they haven't spoken since they parted ways, and then they're forced to reunite when they have another, one final book due together on contract. I believe it's set in Florida, and obviously these two are going to end up together, and I'm just so excited. It sounds like it's going to be so cute. Next on my list is a thriller novel called Greenwich Park by Catherine Faulkner. This one's slated for release on January 25th, and this is a debut thriller novel. It's about impending mothership, unreliable friendship, and the high price of keeping secrets, and in this one we're following a character who meets this woman at a prenatal course, and the woman is the antithesis of motherhood. She's smoking and drinking and doing lots of things that you maybe wouldn't want to be doing if you're trying to get pregnant, and the two of them end up becoming friends, and she is so drawn to this woman, but then her friend starts displaying all of this increasingly erratic behavior, and everyone else in her life is telling her to distance herself from this friend, and then it turns out that maybe their lives are interconnected because of some kind of secret, and she's threatening to expose something, and I don't know, it sounds like there's a lot going on, but I'm excited excited to give it a shot. Then moving on to February, the first book that I have to talk about is a romance, and it is Not the Witch You Wed by April Hunt and April Asher. This one's releasing on February 8th, and it is the first book in a new paranormal rom-com series. This one follows a fake relationship between a magicless witch and a wolf shifter, and as a bonus, it takes place in New York City. Then I have another thriller to talk about, and that is Fake by Erica Katz. This one comes out on February 22nd, and this one just sounds so exciting to me. It follows a forger named Emma who's actually like hired to create forgeries of really expensive, really renowned artwork. She does this legally for museums and collectors who are trying to either protect their investments or have the false displayed in a museum while the original is being like restored or cleaned or what have you. So it takes place in the high stakes world of art forgery, and it moves across the globe from the trendy galleries of Chelsea in Manhattan to the high-flying international art fairs of Hong Kong. Then moving on to March, the first book that I have to talk about is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey, which is the second book in the Bellinger sisters. I don't know if it's just going to be a duology since there's only two sisters, or if there's the potential for her to expand it and maybe use another character from the small fishing town. But this one's releasing on March 1st, and we're following Piper's sister Hannah, who is coming to town to visit, and she is crashing on her platonic friend Fox's couch. The two of them definitely had a little bit of chemistry in the first book, and it just sounds like it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited for these two characters to get together. Then we have a really interesting sounding thriller. This one is called The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. It's coming out on March 1st, and the thriller begins on New Year's Eve in 1999, so it's on the eve of Y2K, and everyone's kind of like expecting chaos, but obviously nothing happens. Though, at a Blockbuster Video in New Jersey, there are 4 girls who are working the night shift, and they get attacked, and 3 of them are killed, and 1 of them escapes. The suspect in the case is identified, but never apprehended. And then 15 years later, in the same exact small town in New Jersey, there are 4 teenage girls working the night shift at an ice cream shop, and they get attacked, and again, 3 of them are killed and 1 of them escapes. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting. The synopsis also makes it sound like there are 3 main perspectives that we're going to be following. It sounds like it's going to pack an emotional punch because our first character who survives on the initial like blockbuster attack is kind of going to have to relive her grief and trauma in order to help the second girl who survives and the detective who is trying to apprehend the suspect. Then on a much lighter note, we have another romance, and that's In a New York Minute by Kate Spencer. This one's releasing on March 15th, and it's a debut rom-com, and it's taking place in New York City, obviously. And in this one, after a very embarrassing and public meet cute on the New York subway, somebody takes a video of the interaction, and these 2 characters end up kind of going viral, and everybody is shipping them. In reality, the pair can't stand each other, and in a city of 8 million people, they figure they won't run into each other very much, but their paths keep crossing and crossing and crossing. Then another thriller I'm looking forward to is The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This one's also releasing on March 15th. This is another dual timeline thriller from Simone St. James, and in this one, we are following a true crime blogger who gets more than she bargained for when she interviews a woman who was acquitted of 2 cold case slayings. Next on my list is a YA contemporary, and that is Message Not Found by Dante Medema. This one's coming out on March 29th, and this one sounds so good, and if it is anything like The Truth Project, I'm just expecting to cry and cry and cry and cry. So this one follows a teen who loses her best friend in a car accident, and she really misses her, so as a way to deal with her grief, she ends up creating a chatbot of her best friend by uploading like text messages and emails, and the more that she uploads, the more it feels like she's actually talking to her best friend. But then the bot starts dropping hints that her friend might have been keeping a secret from her, and it's like a very big dark secret, and it might even have contributed to the reason that she died. I'm like just preparing to be destroyed. Then moving on to April, I am looking forward to The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. I'm not sure if this is Claire Kahn's first adult book, but I know that she has also written young adult books in the past. This one's scheduled to come out on April 12th, and we're following an ace character who's in love with her best friend, but she's too scared to tell him, and then his name is Malcolm, and then he comes home one day and announces that he has found the love of his life, his new girlfriend Summer, and he invites our main character on a weekend getaway. So she decides to go and try to show Malcolm what it is that he's overlooking. And Summer also brings along her ex-boyfriend Fox, so her and Fox end up talking, and the pair start fake dating in order to make Malcolm jealous, but then our main character realizes maybe she has feelings for Fox. Sounds like a fun rom-com. Next on my list is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This one comes out on April 19th, and this is a modern fairy tale style rom-com following a sophisticated New York City ER doctor and a 10 years younger, casual as they come carpenter, and the two of them have undeniable chemistry. But Alexis feels like there's no way that she can bring Daniel into her worlds just because they are so drastically different, but she also doesn't want to give up the joy that she's found with him. Then moving on to May, the first book on my list is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This one comes out on May 3rd. This one follows an avid reader named Nora, and she has kind of decided that she's going on this month-long trip with her sister to a small town in North Carolina where she wants to basically become the heroine of her own romance story and meet a small town handsome doctor. But instead of that happening, she keeps running into this brooding editor who is also from the city, and the pair just keep meeting again and again. Next on my list is Once Upon a K-Prom by Kat Cho. This one comes out on May 17th, and this is Kat Cho's first contemporary novel. She wrote the Wicked Fox duology, so I'm excited to read this one because that one had been inspired by K-dramas, and this one sure sounds like it's inspired by a K-drama. So we're following a main character named Elena, and her favorite K-pop star ends up showing up on her doorstep to ask her to prom. It turns out that this K-pop star was actually her very close childhood friend named Robbie. The two of them were thick as thieves, and they made a pact when they were younger to go to prom together, but Elena kind of lost interest and wasn't planning on going to prom at all until Robbie shows up out of nowhere, but he's completely different from the boy that she knew as a kid, but she's also kind of intrigued and can't stop thinking about him. Then it was just announced that Katharine McGee is coming out with a third book in the Royal series. This book is called Rivals, the American Royal series. This one's coming out on May 31st, and I'm just so excited because I felt like there were so many unresolved plot lines at the end of book 2. It was not the most satisfying ending. I was fine with it, but I also wanted more, and now we're getting more, and I'm so glad. It reads like a contemporary novel, but it takes place in the United States, and instead of having a president, America has a royal family, and George Washington was our first king, and then we go through the descendants up until modern day, where we're with Beatrice and Sam and Teddy. They're all great. I just really enjoy it. It's very dramatic, really over the top, a lot of fun. Then in June, I'm looking forward to Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. This one comes out on June 21st, and this is a rom-com. It follows a reality star and a cupcake baking football player who start fake dating in order to save his bakery. Just sounds super cute. Then moving on to July, I'm really looking forward to The Charmed List by Julie Abe. This one comes out on July 5th. And after Eva Evergreen and the Magical Witch, I will read anything that Julie Abe writes. So this one has kind of one of my favorite tropes for YA contemporary novels, and that is we have our heroine following a list. So we're following a character named Ellie who has come up with an anti-wallflower list, and she's planning on having a life-changing summer and taking lots of risks. When number 4 on her list goes horribly wrong, which is to get revenge on this guy named Jack, she actually ends up in a car with him on a road trip instead of being with her best friends, and they're heading to a magical convention, but as they are driving along the California coastline, Ellie might actually be completing number 13 on her list, which is to fall in love without realizing what's happening. Then I'm so looking forward to The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This one's also coming out on July 5th, and this is Ashley Poston's first adult romance novel. I have loved so many of her YA novels, and I'm so excited to read this one. We are following a disillusioned millennial ghostwriter who is a ghostwriter for a very popular romance author, but after a very terrible breakup, our main character stops believing in love, so she asks her new editor for an extension, but he denies her that opportunity. And then her father ends up passing away, so she has to go back to her small town and help out at her family's funeral parlor while they are going to bury her dad. A ghost shows up there, and I believe the ghost is her new editor who has unfinished business, and it just sounds like it's going to be very entertaining. Then also in July, I'm looking forward to The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This one comes out on July 7th. Really hope that this is better than Riley Sager's last book, because I did not enjoy that one, unfortunately, but I'm not ready to give up on him just yet because his earlier thrillers have been so good. So this one takes place at a lake house, and we are following an actress who has kind of gone there to escape some bad press that she's gotten recently, and she becomes enthralled with the couple who live across the lake from her. So she has alcohol and binoculars, and she starts watching them, and they seem like they have the perfect relationship. But then one day, our main character ends up saving the wife from drowning in the lake, and the two of them form a friendship, and her friend starts letting on that her marriage is not as perfect as our main character once believed. And then her best friend goes missing, and obviously this actress becomes fixated on finding out exactly what happened to her. So it kind of has like Rear Window vibes. Then in August, I'm looking forward to Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. We have zero information at all about this book aside from the title and the fact that it is the second book in the Love Hypothesis companion series. I'm so excited. I don't know who this book's going to be following, but I recently read the Love Hypothesis and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And while I'm talking about Ali Hazelwood, I'm also really looking forward to her 3 interconnected romance novellas that are coming out over the year. I figured I would just kind of talk about all of them at once, but this series is going to follow 3 best friends who all work in STEM. And yeah, I'm excited for anything that Ali Hazelwood is putting out. And then kind of unconfirmed, but kind of confirmed, and I feel like we'll just get more information about it later in the year, is Well Traveled by Jen DeLuca. The release date is listed as 2022, and there was a sneak peek of this book at the end of Well Matched, but outside of the 2022 release date and the Goodreads description of Lulu's story, we don't really know anything else about this book. So again, romance works on kind of a different schedule than the rest of publishing, so I have no doubt that it probably will come out in the second half of the year, but that's all that I have for right now. I probably will do another anticipated releases video in the summer because there will likely be a whole bunch of books that pop up that like haven't even been announced yet. But that's all that I have for this video. So let me know what you're most looking forward to reading in 2022, any anticipated releases, anything that maybe I missed on my list. I would love to hear about them. And that's all that I have for this video. So I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!